Alright, let's dig even deeper into why high-value men are steering clear of long-term relationships. This isn't just a trend, it's a movement rooted in a clear understanding of the risks versus rewards. First and foremost, let's address the issue of radical feminism. This isn't your grandma's feminism that fought for equal rights and opportunities. No, radical feminism has taken a darker turn, one that paints men as the enemy and devalues their contributions to society and relationships. High-value men, the ones who have busted their asses to achieve success, are fed up with being vilified simply because they exist. They're tired of the narrative that men are inherently toxic, oppressive, or otherwise problematic just for being men. This toxic atmosphere has created a situation where many men feel that no matter how much they give, it will never be enough. In the modern dating world, men are constantly told they need to man up and take responsibility, but they're never given the corresponding authority that traditionally came with that responsibility. Take the traditional family structure, for example. In the past, men were seen as the head of the household, and with that position came both responsibility and authority. Men provided for their families, and in return, they were respected and their leadership was acknowledged. Fast forward to today, and that dynamic has been turned on its head. Men are still expected to provide, protect, and support their families, but the respect and authority that used to accompany these roles have been stripped away. High-value men aren't blind to this shift. They're not interested in playing the game where they're expected to pour their time, energy, and resources into a relationship where they have little to no say. Why would a man who has options, who could be spending his time and money on things that actually benefit him, choose to tie himself down in a relationship where he's constantly walking on eggshells, trying to avoid stepping on the landmines of political correctness? And let's not forget about the financial risks. The legal system is stacked against men when it comes to divorce. In many cases, men end up losing half their assets, paying alimony, and sometimes even child support for kids they barely get to see. The idea of till death do us part has been replaced by till I'm bored or unhappy, and high-value men know that they could be on the losing end of a divorce settlement, even if they were the ones who did everything right. They're aware that the woman they marry today could very well be the woman who takes half of what they've worked their entire lives to build tomorrow. Now, you might say, not all women are like that. And sure, there are women out there who don't fit this mold. But high-value men aren't interested in playing the odds when the stakes are so high. They're not willing to risk everything they've built on the hope that their partner won't change over time or that the relationship won't go south. The reality is, people do change, and relationships do fall apart. High-value men know this, and they're not interested in gambling with their futures. Let's also talk about the alternatives. High-value men have them in spades. They're not desperate. They don't need to settle down to secure a partner. In fact, the higher a man's value, the more options he has. He can date multiple women, enjoy his life, and avoid the potential pitfalls of a long-term relationship or marriage. This isn't about being a player or avoiding commitment because of fear, it's about making a rational decision based on the reality of the modern dating landscape. Why invest in something that has a high likelihood of failure when you can enjoy the benefits of dating without the long-term risks? Some people might accuse high-value men of being selfish, but let's be real, it's about self-preservation. These men have spent years, sometimes decades, building their careers, accumulating wealth, and developing themselves into the best versions of themselves. They're not going to throw all that away on a relationship that might end up being a financial and emotional drain. They've seen too many examples of men who have been taken to the cleaners by the legal system or who have been left broken and broke after a relationship went sour. High-value men aren't interested in becoming another statistic. There's also the issue of respect, or rather, the lack of it. In today's society, men are often portrayed as bumbling idiots in the media, as incompetent or unnecessary. This constant barrage of negative imagery seeps into the collective consciousness and affects how men are viewed in relationships. Many women, influenced by this narrative, begin to see men as disposable or as mere providers. High-value men, who are acutely aware of their worth, are simply not willing to put up with this kind of treatment. They demand respect, and if they don't get it, they walk away. Let's talk about self-discipline for a moment. A high-value man doesn't just have his finances in order, he has his mind and body in check too. He knows how to control his impulses, how to focus on his goals, and how to stay on his path without getting derailed by distractions. This discipline extends to his relationships as well. He's not going to let a pretty face or a moment of weakness pull him into a situation where he loses control over his life. He's learned to separate his emotions from his decisions, and this is why he can walk away from relationships that don't serve his best interests. A man who is disciplined, who has a strong sense of self, and who knows what he wants out of life isn't going to be swayed by societal pressure to settle down or get married. He's playing the long game, and he's not willing to sacrifice his freedom or his goals for anyone. The final nail in the coffin for many high-value men is the lack of reciprocity in modern relationships. They're expected to give endlessly, but when it comes to receiving, they're often left high and dry. Society tells men they need to be sensitive, emotionally available, and supportive, but who's there to support the men? Who's there to recognize their emotional needs, their vulnerabilities, and their sacrifices? High-value men are tired of the one-sided dynamic where they're expected to be the rock, but when they need support, they're told to man up and deal with it on their own. In conclusion, high-value men are avoiding long-term relationships and marriage because they've recognized that the risks far outweigh the rewards. They're not interested in playing a game that's rigged against them. They've seen the landscape for what it is, a place where men are undervalued, disrespected, and often left holding the bag. These men have options, and they're choosing to invest their time, energy, and resources into things that will bring them joy, fulfillment, and success, rather than into relationships that could very well end up being their downfall. It's not about being anti-woman or anti-relationship, it's about being pro-self and recognizing that in today's world, men need to look out for their own interests because nobody else will.